Alright, so this is video 1 about file management. So in this video I want to talk about file management, and in this video specifically I'm going to be talking about digital file management. I know there's files where we have paper and mail and all these things, but today I'm going to be focusing on digital file management. So the photos you take on your phone, files from school, files in email, things like that. I just wanted to compile a list of things that I learned and share those with me. So let's start. Now that we've talked about physical and digital data, let's start about digital data. And the first thing that I did was to list out my drives. And I think of anything that holds data. So this could be like my computer hard drive or SSD, and how full it was. And then I made a note of what was in it. So that was my first list of what I did, just so I know what do I have, where are all my photos, how much is it. That can be used to decide how much storage, where you're going to store things in the future and whatnot. So that was the first step I did. The second thing I did was, how am I going to back this all up? What do I want to back up? And there's some data I have that I don't need backed up. There's other data I have that I do want backed up. And it reminded me of the 3-2-1 backup algorithm, so having 3 backups in 2 locations, 1 off site, and then there's smaller scales of this. So the first thing was moving everything. So I have a couple external hard drives, so I wanted to move things to an external hard drive. So talking about files that help me in this, so programs that help me in this process. The first one was a program called Winderstat. And I'm showing that on the computer right now, how that pops up. But what Winderstat does is it combs through all your files and it'll show you what is taking up what and how big it is. So this can help spot large files, duplicate files, things such as this. So that's one program, is Winderstat. The other is Free File Sync. And Free File Sync is similar, but Free File Sync helps to manage where things will be stored. And I think that the most important thing was, and Free File Sync works on a folder-based system, but it can do updates, mirrors, or synchronization. And so let me show those 2 different ways. So two-way, and it shows here. So two-way makes the files on 2 different folders match. Mirror, so one file will always match if you delete something of that. So mirror is kind of the same as two-ways, but on the right file destination, it won't change if something changes in the backup, like a two-way will. And then update. So I like to update where only new files I have can have my computer files, and then I have my hard drive. And so files can move one way, and then if they're deleted off the computer hard drive, they're still saved on the hard drive itself. So I use mirror for the simplest form of a backup. And that backup form is just having all those extra files on an external hard drive. And to add more security and redundancy, you could have 2 external hard drives. So this goes to hard drive 1, this also goes to hard drive 2, and every month they're swapped out and they're alternated. But so this has an A copy, this has a B copy, so if one fails, you still have the other, and it can be replaced, and this can be repeated. This is kind of a simple method. The reason I like those programs is because they are open source and free, and so they're accessible and they work well, and they're unlikely to change or not work going forward. I wanted to do a section on how to move data off the phone. So in my settings on my phone, I have set it so that way the phone takes high compatibility photos, so it takes JPEG photos, and then when you plug your phone into your computer, you can get those photos off your phone and just download them straight to your computer, or you can use AirDrop if you have a Mac, or you can go to iCloud and do it that way. Now, there are cloud areas too, so that would be in my list of drives as well. You could list cloud drives. So this could be Google Drive, Dropbox, iCloud, and There's OneDrive, which is Microsoft's flavor. And you may have access to data based upon your school or workplace or things like that, and just use good judgment in that. Okay, so that's been some tips. So that's been some ideas about personal file management and navigating that. So like I said, let's go over where I listed the drives, how much is it full, where am I backing this up, and having a backup plan and a backup schedule. And it's probably helpful too to even create a little document that describes your process, so that way when you do this on every monthly or something like that, things can stay updated, or when someone encounters what you're doing, they're able to find those things. Okay, some tips. I wanted to cover some tips. So here are some tips, and this is where the screen capture will come in. So I want to give some file navigating help. So I'm here in my downloads folder, for example, and I have these documents. So one thing, the first tip is you can use Alt. So these aren't folders, but if I go to another folder, I can navigate to different folders. If I click once, I'm highlighted there, and then you can use your arrow keys to navigate around. You can click enter to enter a file, and then you can use your arrow keys again. So this helps you move around files very quickly. And then you can hit Alt up arrow to go up in your file tree. I don't know if Alt down arrow does not work. And Alt left arrow will go back and forward. Oh no, left arrow just goes back. But that's going back up here in your navigator, forward versus back in the previous folders you were in. The next thing is adding files to quick access. So these are your quick access files over here on a Windows computer. If I use this folder a lot, I can select the folder, right click, and then pin to quick access, and that will show up here. Pin to start, we'll put it on the start menu over here, so that could be helpful as well. See, so I have this documents on computer. It'll open up a new window of the File Explorer with those documents where everything is kept. The next tip is copy and pasting the file path. So when trying to manage files and where they are, this up here is called your file path. And you can click on this and you can link this in documents. So you can copy this. You can copy that, and then you can paste that somewhere. And then if you come back, you can copy this path. And then if we go somewhere else, so if I go to my documents folder and then I paste that document, it'll go, if I go to my downloads folder, for example, I'm here in downloads, but if I paste that new path and hit enter, then you'll go to that path. And that is similar to when you click a file, you can look for open file location, RAV4 for example, and I find this document, I can say open file location, and it will take me to the place where that file is held on the computer. So that's something to keep in mind as well. Okay, so we talked about those. Naming scheme, just an idea to keep a naming scheme so that way in your projects, when you're working on things, everything is organized. And so you can use dashes or periods, but by date and an underscore and a descriptive title, and that allows for things to stay in order. So just an idea on having a naming scheme. I like year, month, day, day, because that will keep everything in order, versus if you do the month, day, year, things will get a little bit in a different order. Okay. Moving files between drives. The way I like to do that is I like to open up two. You can hit Control N, that'll open up a new window of that file location. And I like to just keep the windows side by side. You can use Alt or Windows key arrow keys to get that, and then you open one drive on one side and then click and drag to the other is a common way to copy that. You can also copy paste. I made a note here about different drives, different formats and speeds. So when you're using an external drive, make sure you're using a good cable that came along with that, or having a good quality cable. This can get you faster transfer speeds for what your drive is rated for. Also, I like to reformat all my drives in exFAT32, but just a note to pay attention to what is the format of your drive, because if you format your drives correctly, then you can plug them both into Windows and Apple computers, and both computers will be able to read the data off of that drive. Something very helpful when you have a household that has different computers and whatnot. The next is I want to talk briefly about the para idea. I've seen reasons for and against para, but here is how a way you could set it up with numbers and PARA, and there are the folders that you could keep everything in. So that is the tips. Those are the main things that I wanted to cover with the file management.